Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Hopefully you're having a great first half of your week and ready to snap on into that Thursday, Friday mode. Today I am coming to talk to you about one of the cornerstones of social media and internet marketing, and that is your blog. So our philosophy at MeetEdgar truly is that you need to make sure you have a platform to send people back to. For most of us, that's going to be our blog. So our status updates live on social media, but the majority of the time, our goal is to drive people to a site that we own. Whether you're a blogger or a podcaster or a video creator, you want to make sure people can find you off of the social media networks. So in order to do this, most of the time we call this content marketing. And something that we have backwards a lot of the time, if we're just beginning a business or a service, is that you think about this in the mindset that, when my audience gets big enough, that's when I'll start writing a lot of blog posts. Or once I have a lot of followers, then I'll start creating really valuable content for them on my blog. And that backwards thinking is not what's going to actually help you gain and reach more followers on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. So I recommend making sure that you start creating your blog, even if you're just getting started now, or even if you're pivoting. And we're going to talk about some ideas on what type of content you can create, even if you're in the pre-launch phase and you have no audience at all. Because remember, all of us started from zero at some point. And a blog or a piece of content that you're able to drive people back to is the way that you can showcase your little corner of the web and your little corner of social media audience to get them to see you as an expert, to trust you, and eventually convert them to being a part of your community and purchasing your product or service. So if you are someone who is going to be starting a blog for the very first time, of course, in this video, we're going to go over details, but there is a link in the description of this video to MeetEdgar's secret blogging formula. It's a beautiful PDF guide that just walks you through how we took our blog from zero all the way up to having over 100,000 subscribers on our newsletter list, and really growing it throughout this time, even when business might be down for some people. So when you're first starting out with your blog, we suggest having an evergreen strategy in mind. This means that every single piece of content you're writing for your blog should be a piece of content that is going to be valuable to send out no matter what time of year it is. Why do we want you to do this? Because it's this idea that only about 10% of your followers ever see anything you post on social media, first and foremost. So that means the content you're writing, you want to be able to reshare more than once. MeetEdgar's social media scheduling tool has this built into our features, the ability to resurface your posts based on the schedule you set. So that's why we are very passionate about evergreen content, because we see it work. We see resharing a blog post drive more traffic to our site, even ones we've written 3 years ago now. So think about ideas of what type of content in your industry will provide value for your followers. Additionally, especially if you're a new page or a new service or new product, when you're sharing, you're always getting new followers to your page. So they want to be able to see that information that you've provided to previous people. So being able to resurface it lets people know the whole idea of what your brand is about. Sharing it more than once is something that can be easily remembered in this idea of writing once, promoting twice. Write once, promote twice. Beautiful little catchphrase there just to get stuck in your head. There's this idea that's actually out in the marketing world a lot. I think Neil Patel might have actually coined it. And it's this idea that if you spend an hour writing a piece of content, like a blog article, you want to spend 8 hours promoting it. Holy cow, I know that's a pretty crazy amount, but it's true. If you're spending time writing your content in a vacuum and you don't spend any time actually getting eyes on it, then it doesn't do much good to actually raise awareness about your brand. So the majority of your time needs to be locating audiences and getting this content out to audiences who can gain value from it. Again, using a tool like MeetEdgar can be super useful for this, but you can Absolutely. Establish a system that you can do this on your own. Actually, MeetEdgar was actually a tool that was built in response to the fact that Laura Roeder, the founder of this company, had a spreadsheet. We lovingly refer to it as the spreadsheet of doom these days, that she would just rotate through her content. She found that it was taking too much time to rotate through her content in that spreadsheet, so she built a tool to do it for her. But this idea of resharing your evergreen blog posts is truly how we built a really strong community here at MeetEdgar. So as you're starting to think about evergreen content ideas, I always want you to make sure that you're starting the blog process with a brainstorm. So just do a brain dump of content ideas that you know would be valuable for your ideal audience, no matter what time of year those were sent out at. I also suggest going into groups on Facebook, going to Pinterest and YouTube. Those are some social media networks that are actually really great usage as search engines as well. And start typing in the actual words, the keywords that surround your industry. This will give you a really good idea of some of the most common questions that people ask about these topics. And that should set a light bulb off in your head, letting you know that's a great topic you could bring into your own blog. So go into Facebook groups where your ideal audience persona hangs out and see what questions they're asking, so you can bring this back and actually create content around that. Because remember, it's super important to know what your ideal audience is actually wanting to know. What information do they value? What is important to their goals in life? What type of language really resonates with them? You need to do this research first, and this should all be a part of your brainstorm. Another place I like to go to brainstorm is a site called Answer the Public. So if you just Google that or type in answerthepublic.com, you can type in a keyword in there, and it'll give you a beautiful kind of round graph of some questions that people are asking online about this. A great way to spark out your brainstorm. So after you start to brainstorm this and you get these topics written down, then you're going to just go ahead and create a content calendar around your topics. Here at MeetEdgar, we still use a spreadsheet calendar to do this, and we just have the months listed out and then the topics. So that way we know all of our content we're creating around this is themed and that it cohesively fits into our entire marketing strategy. This is also really good to do all at once for your blog, because you're not then leaving blogging as just a task that you're going to do when you have time to do it. You're going to be doing it intentionally, and your audience can tell when a piece of content has been created with that intention. So for example, this month, our theme is audience growth. So every video I produce, every blog post that Maura writes is going to be around this idea of growing your audience. This helps us keep a really great theme, and it helps us, again, understand what topics and concepts month to month are really resonating with our community, because we want to be seen as people who are providing value to you, because we know that's how we're going to retain you as followers. So get those themes going. I also really want you to know that the way you're going to identify what posts are really great is identifying what pain points your followers have. So during this brainstorm and theme, start thinking about the pain points, not just that your product or service could solve, but other pain points that you perhaps have some expertise in that you could offer your audience. So after you actually get your blog brainstorm and your calendar written down, the next step is going to make sure that you have actually written the blog post. So when you go in to write your blog post, formatting is going to be huge. So once you get it really well researched, I want you to remember that white space within a blog post when you're writing it is key and super important. Why? Well, because data tells us that most people really don't read an entire blog post. Honestly, if I think about my own activity on the internet, the majority of the blogs that I read, I do just skim them, and I appreciate when they use subheadings in order to break up that text. I appreciate a really well-placed GIF in order to break up blocks of text. I appreciate a beautiful photo or a quotable image within there. Again, making sure you're drawing people's eyes to the sections that matter and where they're going to go ahead and look and focus their energy there. Additionally, a research study done by Sumo showed that only about 20% of people are truly going to read a whole article past the headline. So it's super important to remember that in order to entice people to read it, having those GIFs and those photos in there can be super important. We add a ton of fun gifts to our blog, so if you need an idea, hop over to the Meet Edgar blog and check it out there. Images to break up stuff. It's shown in this same study that 94% more views and more what we call dwell time on the blog. That's just the time that people are actually spending on that blog. 94% increase when you have images included in your blog post. That dwell time is actually really important for SEO and for making sure that your ranking on Google is increased, because Google, it's not a game of keywords anymore like it used to be. It's a game of making sure they're serving up relevant information, and some of the items that they're actually looking for when they look for that relevant information is if the people are actually spending time on that blog. Because if they see people go to the blog and just close it out, they know it's not a relevant article, so they're not going to serve it up. But if they see people go to that link and read the blog and spend 5-10 minutes on there, they're going to be seeing that, oh, this message really resonates. This is a valuable content for people. So remember, images, GIFs, Whitespace, and headers can really help make sure people are going to make it to the end of your article. So make it easy to skim is a huge pro tip that I recommend using there. When you're researching your topics, I also want you to understand that adding in things like statistics and research-based facts and numbers within a blog post is one of the best ways to make sure that you're showing you're a credible source of information. Now, I also want you to know that you should find a balance with this. So, of course, you want to go ahead and display that research, but you don't just want to be a carbon copy of other research they could find on the internet. Because most oftentimes when we're adding research and when we're adding statistics into our blog posts, they've come from other blog posts online. So you don't want to be just a carbon copy. So how do you strike that balance? You make sure you're telling personal stories in your blog posts. No one wants to read a post that's just regurgitated information, but if you have insightful information in there that is going to have your unique spin of your ideas and thought leadership concepts surrounding that, it's really going to be a winning combination. You need to use original data or original experiments most of the time. If you have some, that is going to be amazing value. But a lot of us don't have aggregate studies like this to include to increase our credibility, right? So what we do is we add in moments of connection, and moments of connection to this data is regarding your personal story. So oftentimes when you hear someone tell a story, right, you're just hearing a lot of facts. And that story with just facts isn't going to make that connection to your brand. What makes that connection is the feeling you put behind it. So make sure you connect whatever statistics you're adding within your blog post to a feeling that people will resonate with. Because the more aligned you can be with your readers' emotions, the more likely it is they're going to want to come back to your blog, the more likely it is they'll humanize your brand in their head, and they'll want to have that connection more. I've said it a million times that we think we are so logical when we consume content and when we purchase products, but the majority of the studies show we purchase on emotion and we purchase on connection and resonance more than anything. So when you're adding things in, make sure there's a concrete story around what you're putting in there. When you're writing your blog, I also really suggest using a tool called Click to Tweet. Click to Tweet is a tool that you can add in to get little tweetables, little kind of sentences that are really powerful that people can share to their own account. This is an amazing way not only to draw people's eyes to some of the more valuable information, but to make sure when they share it on their Twitter account, it's just opening up your brand and your content to their audience. When you open up your brand to someone else's audience, that's one of the strongest ways that you're able to build trust incredibly quickly online. Think about in real life. If a friend goes ahead and recommends a product or a service to you, you're much more likely to buy it than if you just stumbled upon it in a magazine article or on a Facebook ad, right? That's because you trust your friend's opinion. So same thing, give people a way to share your blog content, because that is what's going to make sure that that word of mouth marketing online is really strong. So Click to Tweet, it's a free tool. Go check it out. It's awesome to add into your blog posts. I also really want you to know that you don't have to just do researched information around what you're selling or around what your service is in your blog. A lot of the time, this how-to content, this research content, your own thought leadership are really great things, but be a little bit lighter in some of your blog posts. So we've seen our behind the scenes content when we show off our remote offices or when we talk about different, when we interview different employees within our company and when we use these, as blog posts, these are some of the most popular traffic driving blog posts. People love that human connection, and it just makes sure that you're broadening who your audience actually is, and you're opening up that brand awareness when you're sharing it on social media. Because again, if someone out there doesn't know that a social media tool exists, but they see one of our blog articles about remote work or about how to hire a really great designer or about an interview with one of our marketing leads, they're going to be brought into our brand awareness phase. They're going to learn something from us, and then they might check out, hey, what is this MeetEdgar thing? Even if they just land on our blog, they'll be able to see that we're a software tool, right? So that's the beauty of making sure you're not only focusing your blog content on your product or your service, but you're broadening it to other areas where you're an expert, and you're showing the behind the scenes while you're interviewing, doing Q&A with people in your industry and collaborating with other people to kick those touch points into high gear. So I want you to make sure that you're also not shy about sharing your expertise. Other blog content we've seen do really well beyond just the educational is things that actually tell the story of how we got to where we were. Laura, the founder of MeetEdgar, has been featured in a ton of different magazines, on a ton of different podcasts. You can actually upcycle those and tell the story about what you're talking about on those on your blog, and then link to the other person. This is a great way to get a blog post out there and to position yourself as an expert in your industry. Of course, you can be humble and still do this, but make sure you're actually putting it out there in a celebratory way, because you'd be surprised about how much your community actually wants to celebrate your successes with you. If you've never tried this before, give it a go. It's a really fun thing to do with your community. All right, so once you've written your blog content there, I want you to really spend a ton of time on the title of your blogs. We here at MeetEdgar believe in this concept called the headline generating machine. So what this is sitting down and writing 10 to 20 headlines for every single blog post that you write. I know you might be thinking this is a crazy waste of time, but I promise you it's not. And let me tell you why. First, it's not only going to allow you to get the strongest headline out there for your blog article, but the other headlines that you do not use can be used as status updates in order to get that article out multiple times. Because remember, we're focusing on evergreen content that we can reshare on social media more than once. And if we reshare it with a status update, that could have been a potential headline we didn't use. This gives us the ability to add a little variety and spice in the status updates. And it gives us the ability to have the language be different, because you never know what language is going to hit someone at the right time to compel them over to your site. So sit down and write 10 to 20 headlines that you're brainstorming up there, and use the other ones as variations. Now, our software, MeetEdgar, actually has a variations tool that you can add these into one post, and Edgar will cycle through each variation. We also have an auto variation for your blog posts. The auto variations will go ahead and pull out snippets from within a blog and add them as status updates for you. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like if you've never seen that before. That's just going to be, this is our composer in MeetEdgar. And you can see here, if I actually put a URL in this section, let me go ahead and grab a blog post here. If I put a URL in this section here, you'll notice it says auto-generate variations. If I click to auto-generate variations, Edgar automatically gets pull quotes from within that article to write your status updates for you. If you don't use a tool like MeetEdgar, make sure you still do this for your own blog posts when you're resharing them, that you're getting some of the snippets to pique people's curiosity, that they want to read more, and to add value to the people who might not have time to go and read the whole post, but could get a little bit out of that snippet there. All right, so as you're going through this, I also want you to make sure when you're thinking about titles that you think about how you can add numbered lists into your titles. People love numbers. They love that specificity to know what they're going to get. So if you have something that works with a numbered list, make that your title. People definitely latch on to that. Alliteration is another really strong tool that you can use in your headlines. It's something that people really like as a punchy, fun thing to read. So let's say we were writing an article here at Meet Edgar called how to improve your social media strategy. Pretty dry headline, right? But if I use alliteration in that, I could say something like, the foolproof formula for a successful social media strategy. You see how much more fun that is to read just by employing that tool of language and utilizing alliteration in there. So think about the ways that you could spice up a dry headline using things like that. Other things I always suggest doing is using really strong language, things like brilliant or outrageous or steelworthy or phenomenal. These are fun words that are actually considered really uplifting, and people love clicking on uplifting headlines there. So if we take that example again of saying, how to improve your social media strategy, and we want to add a strong word in there, it would then be turned into something like, how to create a phenomenal social media strategy. So it's a really simple way to just add a few descriptor words, stuff like that, to generate more clicks to your articles. All right, guys, so if you want more advice on how to really get a strong social media blog going, click to the secret blogging formula you see in the description, or let me know in the comments below what other questions you do have, and we're more than happy to answer them either here or email support@meetedgar.com. Like I said, blogging is one of the best ways to get people from social media into your own world that you own, and we would love to hear what kind of blogs you guys are working on. Share the links below so we can check them out, and I'll see you again tomorrow for another live stream. Thanks for checking in and tuning in, guys. It was fun spending Wednesday afternoon with you.